Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gunshine State, brought to you by Florida Carry. I'm your host, Craig DeLuz, and we're going to be talking about firearms policy, Second Amendment, civil rights advocacy, and much, much more. So please take a moment to like and share the program so that your friends can know where the conversation is taking place. Also, if you haven't already done so, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. And in both cases, make sure you hit the notification button. That way, you can participate in the live chat as soon as the program goes live. Also, I want to encourage you, Florida Carry is the state's leading Second Amendment civil rights advocacy group. We are a membership organization and would encourage you to join us in the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. All you got to do is follow the join link in the description to this video and become a member. There's various different membership levels for you to choose from. All right, now let's get into today's topic. We all know that the entire nation, in fact, the entire world is dealing with this issue of COVID-19. This issue is as often is the case with situations where there are emergencies or crises, government springs into action in order to decide exactly how they're going to address it. And unfortunately, one of the things that generally tends to happen, well, is a fundamental infringement of our right to keep and bear arms. For some odd reason, whenever there is an emergency, government seems to think that you don't need to be able to defend yourself. And Florida, unfortunately, is no different. In fact, what has directly been impacted is the ability for individuals to be able to obtain a concealed carry permit. You guys have probably already seen it's happening all across the country. People who either didn't have a firearm before are rushing to the stores in order to be able to buy one. They're rushing to the stores in order to be able to buy ammunition. And in some places, they're shutting down gun stores, right? Because they're not considering them to be essential businesses. Well, the other thing that they're not considering to be essential is your right to be able to defend yourself when outside of your home. In the state of Florida, we exercise our right to keep and bear arms through the concealed carry permit process. It's normally a relatively easy thing, except when, the person who runs the Department of Agriculture decides, yeah, we're not going to be processing those anymore. We're not going to be processing them online, and we're not going to be having our folks do fingerprints. That's what's going on right now in the state of Florida with individuals who are trying to get their concealed carry permits. With us, we have the executive director of Florida Carry to talk a little bit more about this and about what it is exactly that we at Florida Carry are doing to address this issue. So with that, I'd like to welcome Mr. Sean Corena, executive director with Florida Carry. Sean, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Craig.
Excellent. So, hey, before we get started, some of our viewers may or may not be familiar with Florida Carry and the work that you do. So if you could do me a favor and share with the audience a little bit about who Florida Carry is and a little bit about the work that you do.
Sure. We started back in 2010, and we were working on some of the places that the other Second Amendment organizations in Florida really weren't working on. So one of the first things we targeted was getting some teeth into our Florida firearms preemption law. We got that bill passed our first year out. Very proud of that piece of legislation. And it has really enabled us to do a lot of the things that we've been doing ever since, holding local government accountable and making sure that they respect people's rights to bear arms. We've also been working on getting Florida to more of a constitutional carry state. Florida is one of only about 15 states that require a license, and one of only 5 states that, well, let me back up. We're one of only 15 states that require a license for all forms of carry, and we're one of only 5 states that outlaws open carry. So we're really, Florida used to be the leader in Second Amendment legislation, and the state has fallen behind. So that's what Florida Carry aims to fix, is reestablishing Florida's leadership in Second Amendment policy.
And, you know, it's kind of funny, and we talk about rights, and we know that the Second Amendment is, amongst many people, it's like a right, but it's not like a right, and most people take it for granted until the time comes when they actually want to exercise it. And That's a little bit about what we're going to be talking about right now. What's been happening there in the state of Florida when it comes to the ability to bear arms or possess or have a firearm for self-defense outside of the home. Tell our folks a little bit about what's been going on with that.
Absolutely. So in Florida, the concealed carry license has always been considered a privilege rather than a right. So the government can set its terms on whether or not you really deserve to be able to bear arms, whether you deserve to be able to carry a firearm. That changed a few years ago with a court ruling that said that, well, we in Florida don't have to have an unlicensed method of carry because we have a fair licensing system that's generally available to everyone. It doesn't cost too much, and millions of people have concealed carry licenses. That's all well and good until a time of emergency or until you have an administrator of the program who doesn't do their job. And right now we have both. We have a state of emergency where tens of thousands of people are becoming first-time gun owners. They have no way to get a concealed carry license in Florida right now because our Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services, who oversees the concealed carry licensing program, has shut down all new applications. Many of our sheriffs have stopped taking fingerprinting because they don't want to expose their deputies to the general public any more than they have to. And while that's understandable, what's not understandable is how we can do an instant background check to purchase a firearm. But if you want to have the right to carry that firearm, we have to submit these fingerprints and wait for 90 days. Hopefully it takes only 90 days. When the vast majority of people applying for a concealed carry license are incredibly law-abiding, have not that much on the record, and should be able to be cleared without the necessity and expense and time to get the fingerprinting done. So rather than suspending the fingerprinting requirement, which was understandable back in 1987 when we passed concealed carry, rather than suspending the requirement to get the fingerprints, they've suspended the entire license program. Now, if you've had your fingerprints done, they'll still let you mail in the application, but they're not opening any applications, at least for a month. And they've completely inexplicably shut down the online application process, saying instead of submitting it online, you must submit by mail if you can get your fingerprints. Because of coronavirus, I think they must expect that coronavirus is a computer virus.
Oh, leave it to government to come up with solutions that cause more harm than the actual thing they were trying to solve. But it's kind of funny you talk about this. Even in a state of an emergency, like you said, someone can go and buy a handgun that quickly. I mean, so why not then, like you said, why not even just temporarily suspend it? Why not tell you what, we're going to issue 90-day concealed carry permits temporarily for a period of time, and then you can renew it after 90 days. We'll do the whole fingerprint process. I mean, there's ways to do this that doesn't infringe on people's rights, but when you don't really see it as a right, then that's what winds up happening, right?
Exactly. Like you said, people by and large don't know the difference between a right and a privilege. And they've gotten so used to exercising a privilege that is granted at the whim of the government rather than their fundamental individual constitutional rights that so many people have lost sight of what the difference is. And unfortunately, a lot of those people are legislative leaders. And that really has to change. So yeah, absolutely. One of the things we're doing right now is calling on the governor to demand that the Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services do her job, or follow the directive of the Florida Supreme Court that in 2017 said that the right to bear arms relies on this license, and our concealed carry and open carry bans would be unconstitutional if it were not for that license. Well, right now, people can't get the license. We've had a 400% increase in firearms purchases. The gun store owners are telling us that many of them are first-time purchasers. One of them told me that a person that was out protesting with the demanding moms a couple of months ago was in his store buying a gun. And
she was demanding action, but I guess she decided she's going to now take action.
Welcome to, welcome back from the dark side. We're glad to have you back with back helping to protect this tree of liberty. And we want you to have your right to bear arms too. You should not be told that, well, you have a right to bear arms, but it's illegal for you to actually bear arms. And you have no way to get a license to do so until we feel like we can.
And the thing about, I think, a lot of this situation, what's been going on, and there are groups that are filing Second Amendment lawsuits all over the country for various different reasons. But it's funny how people who had decided that gun laws are no big deal and gun control is okay. What they didn't realize was how much of an infringement these laws were, or the way in which these politicians are acting is, until they decided to exercise that right. Now they're starting to see, or at least I hope they're starting to see.
I hope so. And, I talk to reporters all the time, and I often ask them, well, what would you say if you were told that you had to get a city license to publish articles, a county license to publish a newspaper, or write for a newspaper, a state license before you wrote any article at all for your local newspaper? They would all agree that that would be a violation of the First Amendment. Well, we have to do all of these things in Florida that we don't have to do in at least 30 other states. And that is get permission before we have any way of exercising a right. And in other contexts, that's called prior restraint, and it's unconstitutional. But the courts have consistently let government get away on it because of what we call the butt guns factor.
I always use the analogy. People like to say that, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Well, the fact is, yes, you can, in particular if there's a fire. But the thing is, we have laws in place for when, if an individual abuses their rights and it causes harm to others, we have both criminal and civil law that addresses that. But here's what we don't do. What we don't do is we don't put duct tape on people's mouths. We don't gag them before they walk into the theater. We don't gag everybody in the hoping because one person might actually yell out fire and infringe on the rights or harm other people. And that's what we do, though, when it comes to gun rights, because one person, a small, minute group of people might abuse their rights. They're going to infringe on the rights of all people. And the challenge is because many people decide not to exercise their rights. They don't see it as an infringement.
Exactly. It's what was the what's the old quote about the world will end to thunderous applause? People don't know quite often when they're having their rights taken from them. And so that's really one of the things that we do at Florida Carry is we educate people. We educate legislators. We educate the courts. Filing lawsuits is always our last resort. But as a simple Google search will show of looking for Florida Carry, we don't hesitate to do so when we must. But it's always the last resort. Right now, we're asking the governor to step in and correct this problem immediately. If that doesn't happen, then I'm afraid our next step is going to have to be with the courts.
Right. Well, and that's what is sad is that we have to spend our money. We have to spend taxpayer money. We have to spend our money to fight our government, who's using our own tax dollars against us, in order to be able to exercise our rights. I mean, I'm glad that we have that avenue, but that gets to be an expensive avenue. And that's, a lot of people don't understand. As individuals, many of us don't have the resources or the ability to be able to file those sorts of lawsuits on our own. So that's why it's great to have organizations like Florida Carry, because in the event that we do have to go and fight for those rights, a group like Florida Carry is there to be able to help out. But that money doesn't just appear out of nowhere, does it?
No, not at all. It's this isn't my social distancing setup. It's also that, but there are no hallowed halls of Florida Carry. All of our board of directors, we all work from home. We all do it in our spare time. We're a 100% volunteer organization. No one gets a paycheck from Florida Carry. We've never issued a 1099. We have some companies we contract to do certain services, but we don't hire anyone. We're all volunteer based. So we run on a pretty small budget as compared to a lot of our sister organizations. Yet we're just as effective and more effective than a lot of them. Even before we got the Norman decision back in 2017, we were the Second Amendment at the Second Amendment Conference in 2016. We were honored as the gun rights grassroots group of the year. And we certainly haven't slowed down since. But it takes capital, it takes membership, it takes volunteer hours for us to do all the work that we do. Paying the lawyers and paying to keep the websites running and paying to keep the membership systems running and paying to keep the just the tools that we need at our disposal for doing things like legal research and communications and reaching out to legislators. It's mind-boggling if you haven't run at least a medium-sized business. I've run some small business in my past that actually brought in more money than Florida Carry does and spent more money than Florida Carry does, but most of it was on payroll. Here it's all on doing the work.
Right.
So it's critical that we have an active membership that pays their dues and volunteers their times and works with us to really expand the right to bear arms in Florida. And lately we've been too often on defense rather than offense, trying to just secure what we already have.
Well, and that's where I kind of wanted to kind of close. Folks, here's the thing. Florida Carry is a membership organization. I know that a lot of you who follow Florida Carry on Facebook think it's a Facebook group or a Facebook page. It is a Second Amendment civil rights advocacy organization. They are fighting for your fundamental rights from the federal level all the way down to the state level, even down to the local level. They're fighting there for you. So you need to be a member. So take a moment, follow the link in the description of this video, become a member of Florida Carry if you're not already a member. And if you are already a member, guess what else you can do? You can donate. That link is there too. So you guys need to get plugged in. You need to support Florida Carry in order to support your right to keep and bear arms. Because as you're seeing right now, or at least as people who are brand new gun owners are finding out right now, that are trying to go and trying to get concealed carry permits and whatnot, what people are finding all across the country is that, that right is being infringed on. And when they need it the most, they can't get access to it. And the only way you'll continue to have access to it is if you support organizations like Florida Carry. Before we go, Sean, real quick, tell folks how they can find out more about Florida Carry and the work that Florida Carry does.
The best way is to go to our website, go to floridacarry.org. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We have active presences there. The website's in for a bit of a makeover in coming days, so look for some improvements there. But the site is up and online, and even if we understand a lot of people can't afford much right now. The memberships aren't that expensive, but at least get on there and sign up for email alerts. That way, as things come up, we can call on you to contact your legislators, contact these local authorities, and really add your voice to ours. Because one of the things, and Craig, this is something you're just great at, man. We've got to protect our liberties and spread the gospel of the right to self-defense.
Amen. Amen. Preach it, sir. Anyway, Sean, thank you so much for coming on. We look forward to having you back on the program real soon.
All right. Thanks, Craig.
Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Gunshine State. We very much appreciate you folks liking and sharing the program and tuning in and telling your friends about Florida Carry, Florida's premier Second Amendment civil rights advocacy group. We'll talk to you guys again real soon.